Okay, as promised, let's talk about my breakthrough moments. Breakthrough. Chris Witecki over at soulgarden.me, he constantly uses that phrase. Hey, Chris, miss you. Anyway, yeah, I had this breakthrough moment the first day I arrived here. So, leading up to this trip, like I said in a previous video, I planned this whole move from the United States to Jakarta over about 2 months. And the kind of difficult part about it, I couldn't really, start selling my furniture and doing all of these things until I received my visa. Because if I wasn't going to be allowed to be in the country for longer than, 30, 45 days, then there's no point in, selling all my stuff and moving. So anyway, excuse me, I had this master list, just thinking like a lawyer and just kind of breaking, everything down from something big to all these little details. And every day, for the last 2 months, it's like I had to do something on the list. It didn't matter what order; it wasn't the perfect order. But each day I would wake up, I would just I would look at this list, and depending on how I was feeling, I would choose something, to do or to get. And I had to, because it wasn't a lot of time. And I wanted it to be a fairly effortless move, which it was. So I got through the entire list by the time it was time to move, and I think I didn't really have an opportunity to kind of mourn this old life, so I could step into this new life. And leaving behind my California dreams. It was a good 2 years California. I would totally move back there. And it wasn't really, I didn't really have emotional space to kind of to comfort other people about this move. I mean, outside of people who are really close to me, like my family. But really, outside of that, there were people who, they wanted to know all the details, or they wanted to say something negative or kind of throw some doubt. But I wouldn't allow room for that, and I wouldn't allow myself to get up too emotionally involved in other people's reactions. So anyway, I think by the time that I arrived here, I was on the plane, and I felt this wave of emotion sweep over me. And I felt it right down in my gut, and I had this big knot in my throat, and it's like I really needed to cry, because I hadn't really cried. I would say maybe 2 or 3 people I probably really cried with as far as moving, but outside of that, I just didn't have that emotional space. So when other people were breaking down or reacting, all I could do is just kind of hug, give a pat on the back. Here's my email, here's my website, and let's keep in touch, because I didn't want to be pulled into that too, because it just wasn't enough time for all of that. So anyway, after my first day in Jakarta, I get back to my apartment. I talk a little bit about my first day in the previous video, but I get back to my apartment and it's just me. And thankfully, I did have the internet, walking into my apartment. So that was a huge plus. I don't know what I would have done if I did not have the internet. Oh my gosh. So, I get here, and I don't know. It's like every doubt, every insecurity about myself, every fear, just, kind of all these irrational thoughts. It was my mind, the monkey mind, just boom, 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 boom. And I wasn't feeling very centered. I wasn't feeling very grounded and balanced. Jet lag was a huge issue. I hadn't really had a lot to eat, in the last few days. I wasn't sleeping, very well. And it was just all these things that happened. It wasn't really so much Indonesia per se, but it was really more just kind of something that was going on inside of me. So I went to bed, and then I woke up around, I think it was about 3:45, 4 o'clock, a.m. And I looked out the window, and it was still dark outside. And I think I heard my first call to prayer, because Indonesia is a 90% Muslim country. However, it's some people would refer to it as Muslim green, or green Muslim, or Muslim light, or something like that. And it's very different. It's not like the Middle East, because I think a lot of times when we think of Islam, or we think of Muslim people, we think of the Middle East. So what I mean by that is I do see some women here, who wear, who cover their, their heads, and I apologize, I don't know all the appropriate terms for this, and I will learn. But yeah, a lot of the women that I see who are walking around, who cover their head, or maybe wearing like a burqa. I would say you can go to places in the United States and you can see just as many people, Muslim women, dressed like that too. So, like I said, when I was looking out the window, I think I was still thinking I was going to see more of a prayer ritual like you see maybe on, in the Middle East, mostly. But it wasn't really like that. There was a guy like watching TV, and I mean, granted, I do live in a community that has a lot of immigrants from other Asian countries who are living in Indonesia. So I don't know if maybe they're not Muslim, my neighbors. I'm not sure. But I have heard the call to prayer, and maybe people, if they are praying, it's in private. But I'm looking forward, to seeing that. I think it's beautiful. So anyway, it was dark outside, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just, like I said, every insecurity was running through my mind about just everything. So I called my best friend. So she talked me off the ledge because I was like, oh my God, I'm crumbling. Well, what's going on? And really, this opportunity it's an excellent opportunity. I couldn't have asked for a better contact or a better school or situation. And I mean, I walked into a situation where I had a place to live. I have a nice community that I live in. But it was just like something within me, because I had really been like asking for this opportunity for years, and I just really kind of manifested and co-created this opportunity, with God, and here it was, and here it is, and sorry, my mind is crazy, and it's kind of like I felt like, oh my gosh, like what if I mess it up? What if I'm not a good teacher? What if I can't stay in this country for a year? What if I, freak out and I need to leave? It was just like all these things it was just like running through my mind, and my monkey mind was just like taking me off into this direction of fear. And that's never a good sign. So anyway, when I talked to Kimi, I was just like, what do I do? Just to calm myself down. So she's like, all right, I'm going to come up with an action plan. Because like I said, I was sleep deprived, and I was not feeling that great, and all these things were happening, and I couldn't call my mom and dad because of course they would be like, oh my gosh, book the next ticket, come home, and I didn't want to worry them and everything. So anyway, so Kimi, she just said, all right, I want you to, when you get off the phone, put on some angel music, unpack your uplifting, positive, spiritual trinkets, my scarves and bells, and, my Louise Hay book, and, all these things. And she said, and just unpack some of them, and, then go and take a shower, get out the shower, put on some comfy pajamas, and put on a meditation CD, put it on repeat for the whole night, and just go to bed. And I was like, okay, I will. And so I did that, and I slept for a good maybe 7 or 8 hours, which was, unbelievable. Even though I still woke up, I think about like 5:30 in the morning or so, but that was fine. That was longer than I had been sleeping before. And then I got up the next day, and I journaled a little bit, and yeah, I just think that I needed to have that. I needed to cry. I needed to just allow those fearful ideas, to kind of pass through me, and I just needed to purify, So that's why this idea, men who are out there, that men don't cry, it's insanity, and it's probably making you sick and really probably closing you off, a lot more. I mean, I'm not saying, guys have to walk around crying all the time, but crying is natural, and when you cry, it just really allows you to just release a lot. It's one of the best ways. I mean, I feel so much better, after I cried. And that was the thing too. I don't think I really had a chance to really just kind of really allow myself to cry and mourn that life that I was leaving. So I was kind of forced into doing it, once I got here. And I survived. I survived, those first 48 hours. I did talk to my supervisor the next day, and I cried a little bit with him too, and he totally understood. I wasn't planning on crying, but the tears just, came. But I think it needed to happen. And, he totally understood because he's from another country. He's from Korea, South Korea, and he, came to Indonesia about 10 years ago. So he understood how it felt to be in a new country, and the best thing he said to me was, "Don't worry about anything." So I felt 110% better, and we were both on the same page, and any miscommunication that had taken place up until that point, we ironed those things out, and we're both on the same page. And I did talk to a few other people. I have some friends of friends of friends through Facebook who I met who live in Jakarta, two women. One is from New Zealand and another woman who's from Jamaica / New York City. And I haven't had a chance to meet them physically, but we had been communicating over Facebook and everything. And, both of them said the same thing, like, oh, don't worry, it's totally natural, and get some rest, the jet lag, that's probably what's happening. And they were right. And so that's kind of what I've been focused on. So again, subscribe to my video. Thank you to everyone. I just wanted to say who has prayed for me and sent good vibes and tweets and Facebook messages and comments, because it was really, truly a source of strength and comfort for me during those first 48 hours. So it was funny because I was like reading Facebook and I'd be like, oh, ha ha ha, like that's so sweet. And it was just crazy. So thank you, everyone. Subscribe to my videos and check out our website, mawooangels.com. Thanks.